Okay guys, what we've got here is the GG&G. This is their Picatinny style 30mm rings. This was designed for the bolt action. This is a quick throw lever release. And there it is right there. Great looking mount. I love how it's hollowed out here in the middle. It is mostly a 60-61 aluminum mount. You can see we've got 4 bolts up top on each ring. And then all the camming mechanism here is going to be steel. Very nicely made. Everything's machined very precisely. The threads look real good. This steel shoe that fits into the aluminum or alloy chassis, I believe it's 60-61 if I didn't already say that. Everything fits real nicely. There's no drag or anything on this shoe. Beautifully machined, beautifully finished with a black phosphate finish. We have Torx bolts here. This is for the camming device. And there. Okay guys, we're back here with the DSA SA 308 FN design. And zoom in here a little bit on the receiver. And we're going to be looking at something like this. Alrighty. Gun's already empty, I've checked it. Let's remove the mag. Things like a bank vault. Alright. Just kind of checking it over here for fit. Making sure I'm not going to have any issues. First thing we're going to do before we start horsing around here trying to fit things, take a little oil and spray your rails, because we're going to be sliding this thing on and off, back and forth, and if you don't want to scratch the heck out of it unnecessarily, it's always a good idea to put a little lube on there. When we have everything marked out, we can take the lube back off of here, because we don't want a bunch of oil underneath our mating surfaces. Okay. So the way that I normally do these is I mount that pull lever towards the front like this. That way I can reach forward with a left hand, pull this out, and tip it off. Okay, so we'll open this all the way. I'm just guessing here on positioning. Yeah, I'm thinking that's going to be fine. Okay. Oh yeah, that cams down beautifully. Okay. Nice. Alright. So next thing we'll do here is take our scope caps off so that we can actually get this on here and start moving it around. Once again, a little bit of lube in there is always a good idea while you're fitting things together. Okay, so because of the the width of these rings, which are in a fixed position. Obviously we can't move these back and forth like we can a separate system or two separate rings. We'll have limited latitude, but chances are this back portion is going to be about as far back as I can get it. Now obviously I can go like this with it, but we've got the heavy end of the scope back there, more mass hanging over the back, so we'll try to get that as close as possible, and then we'll adjust this rail back and forth, this mount back and forth. We'll adjust this back and forth on this rail to get our proper eye relief, which doesn't seem like it's going to be critical with the scope, fortunately. Okay, we're going to put the top rings back on, and this isn't going to be final tightening or anything like that. It's just a starting point. So I just need enough tension on here in order to allow the scope not to just easily slide off. So it's just going to hold it just a little bit, just so that we can kind of play with this back and forth and see where we're going with it. Now I always try to do these diagonally. I'll tighten, I'll start to tighten one, tighten the other, and then I'll come back over to this side, and then I'll come back over to this side. Or you can go cross here to here, then here to here, and just do X's. And what I'm looking at is the distance between the rings as they sandwich down together. I'm looking at this gap here, and I'm monitoring that fore and aft and this side as compared to this side. So what I can do is I can kind of hold equal distance with my fingers like this. You can see how this moves back and forth here. I can hold rough equal distance there and then tighten those down while that distance is maintained. And I'll feel it when I start to get tension on each individual bolt, because you can feel that ring shift as soon as it starts to move it. If I can talk today. I haven't had any caffeine yet. Maybe I need some. Okay, so there's just a real rough tighten, and you can see we didn't really have any issues getting a fairly equal distance in gap from this side to this side. Now we'll do the same thing over at the back. Starting with the left front screw on this particular ring, going to the right rear till I feel it move. And with your fingers there on those gaps, you can feel that move pretty easily. And then I'll go to the screw right in front of it, or the bolt right in front of it. And then I'll go back here to this left rear bolt. Hey, we're actually pretty snug, and all I did was turn it like this, just with the tips of my fingers. So we've got plenty of hold on there right now. Now I'm roughly going to make sure that the scope is vertical. Again, this is not final fitting, so it's not critical yet. Okay, now that 1.45 pounds or 660 grams compares very, very closely to the Leupold CQT scope with the ARMS throw lever mount. But as you can see, here's the two scopes side by side. The Hi-Lux is a little bit longer, about 1.5 inches longer, but it's going to be fitting much lower on the rail than the Leupold. I previously had the Leupold CQT on the FN, and one of my big problems was the height of the scope. You know, you can't really get any lower just because of its design. It's got this AA battery design underneath the scope. On an AR, it's perfect. It's beautiful on the AR. On the FN, you've got too much difference here between the cheek weld and the rail. There's a step, there's a height difference there. On an AR, you're almost coming straight off of this rail. There's very little drop, maybe perhaps 1/4 inch. So on this one, I need a lower mount, which is what we have here. Weight-wise, we're going to break about even, which I was actually pretty happy with, because this being a 30mm setup, more glass on it, larger ocular, everything's bigger on this one. I'm glad that we didn't gain weight, because this is going to be a heavy setup as it is. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, guys, is just take a piece of masking tape here and get an approximate eye relief position for the rifle. So, let's see if I can get in frame here. So this is about where I'm going to be. I'm just going to go straight down from my eye, and this is going to represent about where my eye falls. Okay, now I know I've got approximately 3 inches of eye relief, and so I'm going to set myself up to try to replicate that, which I'm looking at having the ocular end of the scope approximately right here, which puts the scope mount forward quite a bit, right about there, minus about a 1/4 inch, just because it's easier to have not too much eye relief rather than too much. So we're going to minus about a 1/4 inch and bring it back a 1/4 inch further, just for estimate purposes.